Tommy Robinson is currently in Israel, and his court case, whether or not he'll be found guilty of the terrorist act, which is crazy to me because he chose not to give the police access to his phone records, which I think is honestly insane. The fact that he's been charged with a terrorist act, like it's nuts. The judge has decided to prolong it, meaning that he won't find out until probably November whether or not he'll go to prison or he'll be a free man. That is insane to me. This is like political persecution 101 for Tommy Robinson. I've been following the case ever since it started. And I think what is happening to Tommy is unacceptable. The fact is, Tommy went over to Israel and he spent time with the Israeli people. And you can see, like, he's well loved. And that's a great thing to go over to Israel and to see how close you actually are to all of these Islamic countries that want the Israeli people dead. It's quite interesting. Tommy is a big supporter of Israel, and rightfully so. Tommy is a Christian or Catholic, I should say, and he has seen firsthand the problems with the religion of Islam, not the issues that the pro-Palestinians say, oh, it's Zionism. Zionists are the problem. No, Tommy's done his homework, his research, and he knows exactly what he's talking about. And numbers, they don't lie, right? And when you're coming from the hometown of Luton and you're seeing what the Muslim population has pretty much made Luton, or just the UK in general, it's become like a cesspit. It's like a hellhole. Europe is becoming nothing but laden with crime, and the vast majority of those that are responsible are, you guessed it, Muslim. So the stats are there for a reason, but yet we won't learn or we won't listen because they come in and they say, oh, we're the religion of peace, keeping in mind that their religion is not a peaceful religion. It is, in fact, a death cult. It is a crazy, crazy death cult. They say that they worship God, but Allah ain't God. Allah is the devil. Allah says for you to deceive. The last book in the Quran is dedicated solely to death. And then you've got these imams that are preaching terrorist memorabilia to go out there and to kill and to destroy. No, thank you. So when you got someone like Tommy Robinson that has seen all this, it's no wonder that he supports Israel. It's no wonder that I support Israel. I know who's actually on my side versus who's actually against me. Believe it or not. Everyone's going, oh, but what about the Talmud? Right? Okay. What about the Quran? What about the Hadiths? Oh, we're forgetting all that. Oh, the Talmud is so bad. You know, it's metaphorical. They were having arguments between each other. Rabbis doesn't make it literal. There's a huge difference with that. But yes, there could be some Jewish rabbis that may take the Talmud literally because they're dingbats. Doesn't mean that every single person that calls himself a Zionist is following what the Talmud says. And if they are, that's worrisome, right? Same with Muslims that are following literally everything in the Quran or the Hadiths. That's the point of Sharia, by the way, if you weren't already aware what following the Quran looks like literally. Now, when it comes to the Talmud and everyone's going, oh, but the Zionists are the worst. They've been responsible for 9/11. They're responsible for this. They're responsible for that. There's no evidence of that. And I know some people are going to come at me and say, what about this? What about that? Conspiracy theories, nothing more. Nothing has been proven, by the way. And there were five people that were Jewish that were dancing in the streets after 9/11. Sure. But then, did you see how many Palestinian people were dancing in the street after 9/11? Lots more. Did you see how many people over in Afghanistan, over in Iraq, over in Iran after 9/11 were dancing in the streets? You see how many Muslims were dancing and celebrating after October 7th? Right. And lots of people will try and say, Jay, Muslims aren't that bad. Do you know how much the statistics say about how many people that commit crimes are Muslim? In fact, let Tommy Robinson unveil the facts for you all. Here you go. This is to Brandon Tatum, by the way.
Muslims make up 5 to 6% of the UK population, but 90% of the gang of young children in groups of men is Muslim men. 90% from 5 to 6%. 30% of the men convicted are called Mohammed. Now these are facts, okay? They're facts. We need to talk about them. We need to understand there are 40,000 British Muslims on a terror watch list. 40,000. 1.2 million British Muslims want Sharia law in the UK. This is a problem. Yeah? 66% of British Muslims would not report on another Muslim who is going to join ISIS. Yeah? All of these issues are problems. Why? And when you try and talk about Islam, I just want to set the record straight again. Because I've grown up in Luton, I do know some great Muslims. And I love Muslims. Yeah? There are some Muslims that I've grown up with who I have great friendship with. But they're not following the teachings of Islam. So separate Muslims as people, because everyone here, if you live in an area, you're going to know some nice Muslims. Whether it be a kebab shop worker, taxi driver, you're going to know some nice people. They're people. Yeah? I don't talk about the people. I'm talking about Islam as an ideology. You need to stop Islamic immigration. You need to get control of the prisons. They're going to build an army through your prisons, because they're building an army through ours. The last prison I was in for my film, Solitary Confinement, as I said, Muslims make up 6% of the UK. 40% of the prison was Islamic. 40%. Yeah, 40%. They're converting an army, and no one's stopping them. So, and that's happening here. It's going to be happening in the United States of America. You need a massive wake up. America needs to look at Europe and see where we failed and just end it. Stop it.
This is just in the UK. 40,000 on a terror watch list. That's whoa. And I know people will go, oh, Jay, that's like a small amount. Even having one person on a terror watch list is concerning. But 40,000, all stemming from what exactly? The religion of Islam. As an ideology, like I have mentioned, it is a death cult. You've got imams that will say you're going to be met with men that love death more than they love life. That's a death cult, just so you are aware. If they are loving to end their own life for the sake of an ideology, we've got a problem. And like I mentioned in the very beginning, yes, there are Muslims that are good, peaceful people because they're not following Islam. They're not following the Quran. It's not literally. Okay? There's a big difference when you follow it literally. You end up with jihad. You end up with Sharia. You end up with all these problems. You end up with crime up the wazoo. You end up with subjugation of women. You end up with men that want to take women as slaves and grape them. That's what you end up with. But of course, this is just in the UK. We have here in Australia just let in the Islamic terrorist brides, which is crazy to me. And like I said, numbers do not lie. Tommy Robinson does not lie. And like he mentioned, we need to distinguish between the people versus the ideology. That's an important distinction because, yes, there are people that take the ideology literally, and those are the ones that are the problem. What you call extremists, right? So no, I don't hate all Muslims. There are Muslims out there that I love dearly and I'm friends with because, like I said, they have chosen not to follow the teachings literally. They can choose to be whatever religion they want to be. Free world. Of course, I'm witnessing to them because that's important. You got to let God do the work. So I'm just sowing the seed, right? You let the seed grow. You water it. You keep teaching them about the truth. That's what I do on this show. Tell the truth, keep speaking the truth, and maybe one day they may wake up and realize, oh, it's not It's not a good religion. Maybe I shouldn't be part of this anymore. Maybe I should choose something that's actually really beneficial for me and something that's actually going to help. Now, I can ask the same question. Why aren't Christians going out and committing acts of terror? Why aren't Christians going out and killing many people, stabbing people left, right, and center? Why aren't Christians going out and raping women, young kids? Could also ask the same thing about Jews. Why aren't Jews on a terror watch list? In fact, how many are there on a supposed terrorist watch list? So why is it just these Muslims? Could it be that the ideology that they're teaching isn't exactly a good one? And you have these Muslims that will defend Islam, like Mehdi Hassan, for example. But yet, when it comes down to the actual facts and you start telling, well, more people in your religion, your death cult, mate, are responsible for being on a terror watch list, how do you explain that? What's going on with that? You're the Muslim. You're the one that follows the Quran. What's going on with that? Numbers don't lie. Anyway, I'm glad for someone like Tommy Robinson and Brandon Tatum because they've got big audiences and they can spread the truth out there far and wide. And I guess I'm just here to amplify it even more. But you guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.